of the anxieties I've heard many times is if millions of people used electric cars, all the wires would melt, anarchy would reign, zombies would invade, and only Bruce Willis could save us. A tiny bit of research has shown that this is probably not the case. On a nationwide level, the mass adoption of electric cars would actually help the national grid manage the peaks in demand. But what about on a local level? Now, this truly unremarkable looking box is a substation. Well, can the hundreds of substations around the country deal with the extra demand in just one street? Well, that's what the My Electric Avenue project is trying to find out. Out of the hundreds of people who applied, a few groups of 10 people from around the country will be picked to run the tests. During the launch day, people who had signed up for the scheme were given a quick overview of the Nissan Leaf, and then they went out for their first drive in an all-electric car.
I'm from a company called Zero Carbon Futures, which is based in the northeast, and our role in the project is to coordinate the installation of the charging points and the technology which is going to be installed, identifying the people, we're taking them through, making sure that they understand what's involved in the project, and also installing the technology and the charging point so that they can charge their vehicle at home. We've actually had a great response to the project. There's been approximately 800 expressions of interest. So that's 800 people registering through the website who want to take part. And that equates to, at the moment, approximately 50 potential clusters that we have to work through and to get our target. I mean, we only actually need 7 clusters of at least 10 users.
So you're not short of people who are keen to take part?
Once the technology is installed and once the piece of equipment which is going to be installed on the feeder, then that would be able to monitor and control the supply that's delivered to the charging point.
Right, so it's not only that you can see when people are charging, but you can, if say there's 10 cars plugged in at 6 at night and everybody's cooking and having showers, can you turn the cars off at that moment?
Yes.
Right, which is really what it's all about. It's all about the control bit.
Yes.
Next, I spoke to someone who was participating in the scheme.
And have your staff kind of gone, oh God, we've got to do this, or are they quite keen?
No, there's a lot of enthusiasm for it because I think because we work on electric cars, we understand the technology and we're trying to push the boundaries on it. The chance to be part of a trial, to see what electric cars are like on a first-hand basis. Certainly from my point of view, and the rest of the guys feel the same. It was a great opportunity.
Right. And you just had to go in one today, because it sounds like, you know, of all people who designed and built this extraordinary vehicle, that you would know about it, but you'd never actually driven. Had you ever driven
I've driven some electric cars. I haven't driven a Leaf.
You hadn't driven a Leaf, right?
And to be honest, it's probably the most conventional or normal of the electric cars.
Yeah.
So I was really quite interested to drive it to see what it's like. Is this something I could use as a day-to-day car?
Yeah. Because is it within the range of your commute to get here to work? I mean, could you? So that it would be quite.
It'd be perfect. I do about 25 miles a day.
Right.
If my wife's using the car, she's doing a little bit more ferrying the kids around. It's got full.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it very much appeals, to be honest.
Then I heard about the technology Electric Avenue are using.
So we've got a technology called a Spree, which we're looking to trial as part of the My Electric Avenue project. And really what that is basically a device that sits in a substation with also a device that sits at a charging point. And when the network basically says it's reaching its capacity limits, it sends a signal down to the charging posts down the line to basically say, can you now back off for a bit? The user won't have any change to their behaviour, so they can still do exactly what they normally do. So it's a typical example of whether people actually come home at 6 PM, they'll plug in and expect it to charge at that point, or even if it comes on later in the night. If things are all happening at the same time, there might be a point where the network starts to reach its limits. Right. What we're just trying to do is just try and soften that, to flatten that out. And it's one of those things that the networks that are in the ground today, I mean, many of them were installed back in the 60s. And to be fair, many of the networks that are installed today will still be here out to 2100. They're very long-term assets. Right. And really what we're looking at is what's the most economic way of making sure that people can still do what they want to do. So cars can still charge, things can still happen without really having to dig the streets.
Yeah.
And finally, I learned how the cars would be leased.
In your company leases all sorts of cars to
Absolutely,
all sorts
yes.
of people.
We have 1,500 cars on the road, and a number of them now are electric ones.
Right. So presumably the electric side is a new venture for you.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
And so you've got to go through a whole different. I mean, how different is it then to lease an electric one?
I guess in principle, no different. So you've got to buy the thing for a set amount, guess how much it's worth in the future,
Right.
and then make sure you can cover all the maintenance or whatever in between. Probably it's people's understanding of the product is so different.
Yeah.
Test driving electric cars is the easiest job that I have by such a long way, because I can't think of any time when someone's not got into the car having a lower expectation than what they step out of the car with. So that is absolutely a joy to do.
So the people who are involved in the My Electric Avenue project will effectively one day wake up and there'll be a charge point outside their house and a leaf in their driveway,
Yes.
and they'll be leasing that through you as part of the project.
Absolutely. So they get a car for 18 months. At the end of the 18 months, they do have an option to purchase the vehicle,
Right.
and we'll quote that to them as part of the project process. Or they can give it back.
Right.
So they've got the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
in a way. Well, there are, it sounds a bit grand, but there are, in our experience, there's sort of 3 levels of consciousness to EV drivers.
Oh, right.
The first one is they get over the range anxiety,
Yeah.
which is about a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
After about 2 months, they realise they've not been in a petrol station for so long that they suddenly understand the real cost saving and what's really happening.
Yeah.
And the final one is when they get in a normal car and feel it's dirty.
Yes.
My Electric Avenue is a wonderful project, making this fascinating new technology available to more people, allowing us to learn how to live with electric cars without bringing on the zombie apocalypse.